the lying liars that lie about these sorts of bills. Kamala Harris, after the vote failed yesterday, took to the internet to say these couple things. So we're going to play what Kamala Harris said, then we're going to contrast it with, Then we're going to contrast it. How do you, transformer? Then we're going to contrast it with what Joe Manchin said and what is actually going on. This bill was called the codification of Roe versus Wade. I'm going to repeat that because it's not true. The codification of Roe versus Wade in the Senate was not a bill that was on the floor. But Kamala Harris still took to the internet yesterday to say things like this. Now, stay tuned because we're going to refute literally everything she says because she's wrong and probably just flat out lying about it. Watch this.
I just presided over the Women's Health Protection Act, and sadly, the United States Senate did not vote where the majority of Americans are, which is the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body. The Senate had an opportunity today to defend that right, and they failed to do so. But let's be clear, this fight is not over. And clearly, we also know that we need to elect pro-choice leaders from the local to the federal level who will defend and uphold a woman's right to make decisions about her own body.
Okay, so couple things there. First things first, the polling shows that people were against overturning Roe versus Wade. However, we talked about this last week. That is not at all what the American people actually think when it comes to actual polling. When you run a partisan poll that says, do you think women should never be allowed to get an abortion at any point? 70% of Americans are like, I'm pretty uncomfortable with definites. And that's where they get that quote unquote majority polling number. But the majority of people asked, I would guarantee you, given when you juxtapose it with a bunch of the other polls out there, I would guarantee you that those people are not entirely aware of what overturning Roe versus Wade would do. So that's an entire lie. Then the other thing she said is the Senate did not vote to protect women's rights. Here's the thing. It was not a codification of Roe versus Wade, as we're going to see from Joe Manchin in just a couple seconds. Instead, it was an expansion of abortion rights or abortion law over the entire country. And Joe Manchin explains it pretty well. I'm going to let him do that. Watch this.
The bill we have today to vote on, the Women's Health Protection Act, and I respect people who support, but make no mistake, it is not Roe v. Wade codification. It's an expansion. It wipes 500 state laws off the books. It expands abortion.
So there's that. Joe Manchin making it utterly clear that the quote-unquote codification bill was not a codification of the abortion laws throughout the United States. It was not a codification of Roe versus Wade. It was expanding abortion laws. He said it wiped 500 different laws from the states off the books. So that was also a lie. So here's what I'm curious about and what I think a lot of people are going to be wondering. There's one more clip from Joe Manchin that I think you need to hear because it's the most important thing I think that I loved what he said. But before that, I want to get to a couple of the tweets. Nancy Pelosi said, today, Senate Republicans lined up in lockstep behind Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump to vote to rip away the constitutional right of health and freedom for American women across the nation. That's not true. And we'll get to why. Joe Biden said a fundamental right are at risk and that the Supreme Court, Senate Republicans have blocked the passage for the Women's Health Protection Act. They have chosen to stand in the way of Americans' rights to make a personal decision about their own bodies, families, and lives. Again, not an accurate statement. Here's the thing that I think we should all be aware of from a political side. This is a political move. It has nothing to do with governance, which is why I think what Kamala Harris said right afterward was so abhorrent. Ian Bremmer, who is a commentator, measures risk around the world type of guy, Ian Bremmer tweeted, why did the Senate Dems demand a vote on an expansive abortion rights bill that was guaranteed to fail when Manchin and several Republicans were prepared to support a bill to endorse Roe versus Wade? That's the question. The bill was never designed to pass, and I feel like we should all know that. Going into an election year, Democrats, rather than codify what they believe, which is what Roe versus Wade was. And that's what they called it. It was not that. Rather than actually endorse Roe versus Wade, they decided to put up a bill that was never going to pass, never going to get the support of Joe Manchin, never going to get the support of anybody on the Republican side, and instead went for this super partisan expansion of Roe versus Wade, which is not what the American people want at all, just so that they could use it in the midterm elections.